out my C-section birth video. And if you're anything like me and you like seeing birth videos, I've literally watched like thousands of them. And I just love how every single experience with birth is different, but it's also beautiful in its own ways. So if you're interested in that, just keep watching. So to hop into that, when I was pregnant for my first little boy, I had an ultrasound around 24 weeks. He was head down, measuring good, and so we weren't worried about anything. Come 41 weeks, my body showed no sign of going into labor naturally, unfortunately. And they wanted to go ahead and do an ultrasound. Well, they did, and he measured over 10 pounds. He was measuring over 10 pounds, and the doctor wanted to do a C-section that very next day. And that really broke my heart. I was so focused on having a natural, unmedicated labor, and I had a birth plan, and that was not in the plan. I was all about the plan. And I just wanted my body to go into labor naturally, and it just wasn't happening. I was trying everything I possibly could. I walked like 3 miles a day and bouncing a bouncing ball, and nothing happened. But she didn't even want me to try to get induced, but I asked her if she'd please let me try to get induced, and we scheduled for the next day to me be induced. Well, the next day came and I didn't want to go because I wanted my body to go into labor naturally and I wanted to have more time. So I waited. So come 41 weeks and like 4 days, I scheduled to be induced that day. So we got to the hospital and I was laying in bed. The nurse came in and she put the Pitocin all the way up to 8. That's the highest level of natural Pitocin that you have during labor. And she did that from the very beginning, which set me up for failure, which is one of the things that set me up for failure. Well, before I had that Pitocin, I was having contractions and I hardly felt anything. It was nothing. After the Pitocin, they got so intense that I almost couldn't stand it. And so I had a lot of back labor, and it's like no matter how I moved, it wouldn't be better. And I really couldn't move that much anyway because I was hooked to all kind of machines, and that was so annoying to me at the point. It was just so aggravating that I was in that much pain, and it was so hard to move to try to get out of it, because naturally, like, when you're in pain, you want to move to try to relieve that pain if you get in a different position. Well, there was like almost no moving, so that really didn't help either. Well, while I was in that pain, the doctor had me sign a consent about the possibilities, since he was so large, about him possibly having a paralyzed arm if he got stuck during labor. Well, that was scary, so I signed that, and I continued labor, and I was laboring for about 6 hours, and at that point I only got to about 4 centimeters dilated, and unfortunately that was really discouraging, being in that pain for that much pain for that long and only being at 4 centimeters, that I was thinking about getting the epidural. But I knew if I got the epidural and he was actually as big as they say he was, that if he got stuck, I wouldn't be able to move and maneuver him out easily. So it could end badly for him or me or both of us. So I went ahead and told them I would have a C-section. They got everything ready, and I was so hurt. I wanted to have a natural delivery so bad. Like, you have no idea. That was like what I've dreamed of my entire life, and then it was just like taken away because my baby's huge, okay? Well, I got into the C-section and I got the spinal, and the spinal was wonderful. It instantly like numbed my whole body, and it just felt so much better because the contractions finally went away. And I sat down butt naked in front of like 15 people in the room. And it was so crazy because I'm just sitting there butt naked, and the doctor's like, "Hey Casey, what music would you like to put on?" I'm like, "Anything." And and she just puts on music, and luckily it's good music. So, and that really helped, like, the mood, because I was already upset about having to have a C-section, which I didn't have to. I chose to have a C-section. The doctor recommended it, but I chose to, because I felt like it was the best option for me and my baby, and I prayed and prayed and prayed for my body to go into labor naturally, and it just wasn't happening. So while they were doing my C-section, my husband said they were like tugging on my body, which is so crazy because I don't remember that at all. They were tugging on my body, and when he came out, they were like, wow, Casey, this is a huge baby. So, and they went and weighed him, and he was 11 pounds, 11 ounces. So, yeah, I was in shock. I really thought the ultrasound was wrong, but I would have been so upset if I would have had a C-section for a baby that was in the right position with no complications, for a baby who was a small baby. That would have made me so upset that I got cut open for no reason. Like, his heart rate was good and all that was good, but he came out huge, and he was 11 pounds 11 ounces, and it was like, she said it was like maybe the top 3 biggest baby she's ever delivered, which is so crazy. I never would have thought he was actually that big. But they asked my husband if he wanted to see the baby, and he said, he just held my hand the whole time and just like looked at me, and he just like, no, we'll see him together, which was so sweet. And after it was all said and done, they sewed me up. I heard him crying, and that was just such a wonderful feeling that, you know, even though I had to have a C-section, it didn't go as planned. He was okay. I was so far okay, so it was wonderful. And I was just so happy to finally have my baby. Well, finally got to hold my baby, and he was so long. He was 23 inches long. So he was so long, and he was just like, I just couldn't believe that was in my belly. But of course, that's how everybody feels, I suppose. But it was just a wonderful feeling to have him out. But the recovery was so crazy. It took like 20 minutes maybe to do a C-section, but it took like 3 months for me to feel okay after a C-section. It was pretty crazy recovery. It was really hard. Like, getting up to walk was excruciating. Not trying to scare anyone, but yeah, it was really painful. But the nurses did like delay my pain medicine. I think they just forgot, but that's okay. It's over now. But besides that, they were wonderful. But everything happens for a reason. It was the hardest part, I think, of the recovery was getting up to walk and trying to actually take care of your baby. I mean, he was 11 pounds, so the nurse was like, you can't pick up anything over 10 pounds. And I said, well, my baby's over 10 pounds. And she was like, okay, don't pick up anything but your baby. So, yeah, and it was really rough because it's such a happy moment in your life, and it's so memorable, but you can't laugh. Like, once you have a C-section, it's excruciating for you to laugh or cough or cry or anything that has to do with your abdomen muscles tightening or anything like that at all. So taking care of him was difficult. My husband helped me tremendously. I mean, he helped me walk down the hall all the time. And if it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't have been able to do it. I don't know. He was just an angel the whole time. But, so, that's my C-section birth story. And the next baby, which I just had 7 weeks ago, I will film that video very shortly. And he was my VBAC baby, which was such a different experience. And it was so wonderful. And I'm so glad I got to experience both in a way. So that way I can have an opinion about both of them. And, you know, see both worlds, if you know what I mean. But there was a lot of people who actually told me about C-sections that they preferred their C-section more than they preferred their vaginal delivery. They said it was easier on them. And okay, maybe the actual labor part is easier. Like, you just, C-sections, you're just done. Labor, it takes a while. But I would so much rather go through labor any day and have that wonderful experience of having a vaginal delivery than having to worry about having another C-section in the recovery. Well, if you want to hear another birth story, my second baby's birth story, then stay tuned and subscribe. If you liked this video, then give it a thumbs up. And go ahead and press the subscribe button because I'll be making more future videos.